We're coming in hot to give you our hot takes on all the latest mental health news.
From headlines and memes to developments and breakthroughs.
We go into this show blind with the hopes of learning something new.
Before sharing some bunny hugs.
And leaving with our eyes wide open. I'm Nick.
And I'm Todd. And this is Mental Health Headline Hot Takes.
We're glad you're here.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We are spinning the wheel to see who goes first. Welcome to another episode.
Welcome to another episode.
God damn it, I go first again.
This is so rigged. All right. You're up.
I didn't want to go first, but okay. So this happened last week. This came out March 19th. This is from CBC, but you know, it was kind of big news everywhere. So Canada's Chris Simon, former NHL enforcer, dead at 52. And there was also another ex-NFLer, Konstantin Koltsov. He's dead at 42. Both of them, their deaths came out on the same day. Both were suicide. Jeez. And the first guy, Chris Simon, his family is saying it was due to CTE, or chronic traumatic, I can't say the word, encephalopathy, which is basically concussions, shot to the head, damage. And the NHL is saying there is no link between CTE and hockey.
You're kidding me. The
No.
NHL said that.
Yes.
What the fuck, man?
Of course, I can't find it in the article right now, but I just read it. That's what they said, and my jaw dropped. I read this like when it first came out last week, but I was rereading it just to get myself familiar. But anyway, I can't find the quote here. But yes, according to them, there's no link to playing hockey and having CTE. Oh, here it is. CTE is associated with repeated traumatic brain injuries, including concussions, repeated headshots. Deaths by suicide and drug overdose are common among athletes in CTE cases. The NHL has repeatedly disputed any links between hockey and CTE. So there you go.
How are they allowed to do that in 2024? I mean, the NFL got busted hiding this so long ago, and now hockey's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, you'd think you'd learn from NFL's story, but and the one thing is they can't diagnose CTE until after the death. Like they look at the brain afterwards. So, anyway, there's that. So I don't know if the other hockey player I mentioned that passed the same day, his family hasn't said one way or another if he had CTE or not. But so. The stigma continues. Well, it's not even a stigma. It's just the denial.
I guess what really bothers me is like the fact that the NHL, which is, I'm trying to think if there's like a bigger contact sport outside of the NFL than the NHL. These people literally take their helmets off and fight with one another. Maybe, okay, so you got like your boxing, your UFC, even WWE, like they all get concussions. Yeah. All of that stuff. Those are contact sports, but like hockey's got to be right up there with the NFL. I don't know why. Even to say we haven't done extensive research to determine whether or not CTE is a direct impact of a NHL. Fine. Like we haven't studied it. You can make assumptions, but we haven't studied it. But to just outright say no is just not helping anybody move forward or helping us move forward in our knowledge of CTE and our knowledge of hockey. And I know, like, listen, the NFL hit it forever too. And they have all sorts of marketing around it now. But they have actually taken steps towards making it better. Like, again, how much of it's marketing and how much of it is truth, but the research they put into helmets and helmet design, the research that they put into detecting them, right? Like they have independent neurologists on the sideline that aren't associated with any team that have to clear a suspected. They have the ability to say that guy might have a concussion and pull him out to test him and then determine whether or not they can go back in. Like they're
Exactly. Yeah.
making progress, and it isn't perfect, and I'm sure it's a little shady, but they're at least making progress. Where the NHL saying no correlation is just anti-progress,
I know.
and people are dying. People are dying. No big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure lots of guys, lots of hockey players, lots of football players, they know the risks and they go play anyway, right? Like it's no big secret at this point. So what's the point of even trying to deny it? I don't understand either what, like, I don't know.
Money. It's
I
money.
guess, but like, just say it happens and like do like the NFL
Well, the
and
NFL was forced to pretty much. That's
yeah,
why.
they
So
were.
once this happens, unfortunately, more the NHL
Yeah.
will be on the hot seat because there'll be activists and people pushing for it.
But I mean, how can you deny it if the NFL is saying it
I
happens?
know
It,
it's ludicrous.
I don't. It makes no sense to me. And I didn't do a whole lot of research. Like I just read this article and them
That's the
saying
point of the
they're
show.
denying it.
Like,
But
yeah,
yeah,
we're
I
kind of
didn't
like
know.
we're looking at this. I was thinking about this the other day when I was explaining this to someone. And it was like the whole point of this is to look at it in this way, like to look at it as a general person who reads a headline and maybe some of the article or all of the article, but not do the extensive research and just kind of
Right.
like share thoughts on it,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't read any other articles about it or anything. But I'm
I
assuming
actually, I'm just more shocked. I'm
I
more
know me
shocked
too.
that they're just denying it than anything else.
Yeah,
I didn't
I
know that
know.
was the case. I
No,
would
me
imagine
neither.
golf is like, yeah, sometimes I bet people get concussions and get CTE playing golf. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, if you get hit in the head with a ball or a club or something.
or a
But
club. Yeah.
yeah,
You slip and fall and hit your head. Yeah. CTE.
yeah, I don't see
Crazy.
the, I don't see the benefits of denying it.
I just think it's one of those things where they're just going to try and, scoot by as long as they possibly can before they have to invest money in it.
I guess it's so bizarre.
It's so
I
stupid.
don't
You
know.
know what I think too? Like, you follow the money. There's probably money somewhere that we could follow if we really put our minds to it.
That's trying to squash it. But again, like, what's
Yeah.
the benefit? Like the NFL, they're looking at like it's preventative. Like eventually, it's going to be shown that this is happening in hockey. So why bother? Why wait that long before it turns into a whole investigation and everything? Why not just embrace it and be like, here? Like I don't know. I don't. Yeah,
No,
it's bizarre to
I
me.
hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's true. It's like because I mean, it's happening in every sport, like you said. Like
Mm-hmm.
even the WWE, which is like notoriously like kind of
Scripted.
scummy and scripted. Yeah,
Yeah.
they are even like looking into this stuff. And
Well,
I
they
mean,
had the only reason they pay attention to it is because of the whole Chris Benoit thing. If you remember that.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a dark, dark, dark time.
yeah. But I mean, that just goes to show you what could happen,
Mm-hmm.
even in hockey or a football player. Like, who's the Patriot player that?
Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's just a matter of time. So why keep denying it? But
that's I agree. I agree with you. I just don't. I think it's just has something to do with money.
I
If
guess,
you deny it long enough and you save yourself another couple of years of having to invest in it, they'll do it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and this isn't, I guess, exactly a mental. I mean, I guess it is a mental health thing. I mean, they're
I
taking
think
their
it.
lives,
I
but
mean, they're taking their lives. Yeah,
it's not. It's more of a brain injury than it is a mental illness, maybe. Or are they two in the same? I don't
there's
know.
a great question for you.
Yeah,
So mine is in scitechdaily.com, and it is written by Monash University.
good university.
Yeah, I think they're prestigious. It
I've
was
never heard of them.
actually, this came out yesterday. I had just read this actually when we were texting, and its headline is New Maps Reveal the Individual Brain Changes Linked to Different Mental Illnesses. So, what this study had done was map brain changes in 1,300 people with different types of mental illness to see if they could tie things happening in the brain to specific mental illnesses. The study was published by Nature. Let me try that again. The study
Sure.
was published by Nature Neuroscience and led by the researchers at Monash University. So they used brain imaging to measure the size or the volume of 1,000 different regions of the brain. And the idea here, as I said, was to tie together whether or not was like a statistical model that can help establish whether or not a brain's size in specific regions can be linked, or changes in a specific can be linked to specific mental illness. So theoretically, like if you have a piece of your brain that is changed in this way, that could lead to depression or that could lead to anxiety in this test.
So is it the brain changes that causes the depression, or does the depression cause the brain change?
So that's a great question.
Thank
Let's
you.
see. So the framework we have developed this is a quote. The framework we've developed allows us to understand the diversity of brain changes in people with mental illness at different levels, from individual regions through a more widespread brain circuits and networks, offering a deeper insight into how the brain is affected in individual people. So it's interesting because it doesn't actually address that. So let's see. We confirmed earlier findings that the specific brain regions showing large deviations in brain volume across individuals, with no more than 7% of people with the same diagnosis showing a major. Oh, wow. So 93% of the time, there's consistency, it sounds like. Results mean it's difficult to pinpoint treatment targets or causal mechanisms by focusing on these group averages alone, but it also may explain why people with the same diagnosis show similar symptoms and treatment outcomes. So that's interesting, right? So if they've recognized someone or use this statistical model to identify people with certain brain regions impacted by depression, we'll just say it could be anxiety, it could be something more or different. They've basically realized that like the treatment that they give to these people who have that same area of depression is seemingly working. So they're actually like tying these statistical understandings to like treatment protocols. So they're able to treat people, which I think is good, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
more. I would like to. I feel like I'm not articulate. Am I making sense with this?
I think so.
Okay, you can cut this out. I just feel like I'm like talking in circles, and my brain is like vanilla ice cream melted on the counter. Okay. So here's the part that I wanted to get to. It's possible that this circuit level overlap explains commonalities between people with the same diagnosis. For example, two people with schizophrenia generally have more symptoms in common than a person with schizophrenia and another person with depression. So that's the key right there. So if we can determine 93% or whatever that is of people who experience schizophrenia all have that same region of the brain in common, whether it's a increase in size or a change in mapping or whatever that is, we can start to actually study how we can treat those people that all have that same thing. So it's kind of, if you think of it like COVID, right? Like, oh, the new variant or whatever, the commonalities is everybody gets a runny nose and a cough and a sore throat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three. So this is kind of like that, where it's like, oh, people with schizophrenia all have this region of the brain has some damage to it. If we can figure out how to treat that damage, maybe we can help 93% of people with schizophrenia heal. So that's kind of
Right.
the whole methodology here with the brain mapping.
So
And I think I said it better there.
it's actually more of a physical ailment in a way than, like you can do a blood test and go, oh, here's what's the problem. They can look at the brain and go, boom, it's schizophrenia,
Right.
or it's
Because it's this
not
region of the
schizophrenia.
brain.
It's something else. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because I know like psychology and psychiatry, it's a lot of it's a guessing game, right? It's like, well, we'll try
Oh,
these meds. I
totally.
think you might be diagnosed with this, and because there's so much overlap and so many similar symptoms. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of interesting that they can actually physically do a test and say 93% of the time we're right. It's this.
Right. When it's this piece of
Huh.
the brain that's doing. And I think that's I think it's like really good progress to have these kinds of studies, right? And of course,
Hmm.
it's just starting, and there's not a super large group. I think it was, what was it, 1,300 people, I think, that they did in this study. But I think it's a good start, and it shows that there should be more studying done here to find those commonalities in the brain, those symptoms in the brain, or those physical ailments in the brain, and tie them to the mental health, so we can figure out what to do. And I think the other thing there that's so interesting is I feel like with mental health care, we're at this convergence with neuroscience and with like mental health counseling or therapy, however you want to put it, even like addiction counseling, all that stuff, where we're learning so much more about the brain on the neuroscience side and how it works and what chemicals do what and what stimulates what chemicals, that like we're kind of at this place where we can converge the physical stuff going on in your brain and your body with the symptoms that you're feeling. And I actually feel, I hope in our lifetime that we'll make significant progress there. And
Yeah.
I know for like my mental health, and I've talked about this a lot before, but when I started really sort of, because everyone, you've gone through depression, all of this stuff. It is annoying when people are like, oh, just go exercise, or, and I don't think people say that stuff anymore like they used to probably 10 years ago. But
Hmm.
if you pull back kind of like the lack of understanding and empathy that comes with a comment like that, it is like moving your body actually changes the chemicals in your brain, right? So it is like this like weird convergence that I think we're going to see in our lifetime, where we're going to know a lot more about how the brain works and how exercising the brain or treating the brain is going to actually hopefully improve the overall mental health of our society. Because I think we're doing a lot of damage to it with the way that the world is kind of built with social media and the productivity crisis that we have and all of this kind of
Hmm.
burnout. All these things I think are kind of teaching us a little bit more every day about what we really need to do to feel better. But I also think we're people are, I'm not, but people are scrolling TikTok for like 17 hours a day. It's crazy.
I do like TikTok. Actually, I don't know if I like it or I just,
It likes you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, yeah, even studies like the gut biome and how it affects your brain
Mm-hmm.
and all these things, and yeah, it is kind of interesting to connect all the dots sooner than later, and all the different theories and things, and to be able to like, yeah, just do a test and say, okay, you maybe you do actually need to exercise more, or
When I realized how important walking actually was for me, and that was, I'd get down on myself for not being able to meditate or turn my brain off, and I just hadn't found the right way that worked for me. And I think we have a
mm-hmm,
lot of that too, where it's like my meditation is walks.
mm-hmm,
That's when I'm
mm-hmm,
thinking, that's when I'm reflecting, and that's just, I have to move to do it. And some people
right,
do it in yoga, some people do it in Pilates, some people just sit there with their legs crossed and they meditate the way you imagine it would be looking from 20 years ago. And so I think it's
right,
just like a lot of that is language and finding what works for you and what your body needs to. But it
yeah,
is, I think we're at a great time to, I want it to happen faster, of course, but neuroscience is really teaching us a lot about what's going on in our brains that's impacting our thoughts and feelings.
yeah. It's so extremely complicated, the
Yeah.
brain, and I find it fascinating that it is something that you can actually, because it's malleable, you can change how your brain does work and
Oh,
parts
yes.
grow and shrink and which ones light up and all that, whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking.
Neuroplasticity. No, you're
Yeah,
right. It's neuroplasticity. I had someone on my podcast earlier this year talking about it. But you can train the brain to be what you need it to be. It just
which
takes
is
consistency.
CBT therapy, CBD, CP.
CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure CBD doesn't do that, but anyway.
It takes the edge off, apparently, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good
Cool.
one. I liked it.
Yeah. Well, I figured that tied in kind of nicely, actually, to what you were talking about,
That's all
because
brain
we
related.
right, like brain related, what's going on up there and how it's impacting us
Hmm.
from a mental health perspective.
Cool, man.
Cool. Well, another one bites the dust.
Yeah. If you have articles or anything you want us to check out, please feel free to send it to us via whatever
Yes,
you were going to
and
say.
I know some people have sent me stuff, and just keep reminding me. I'm sorry. I usually see something and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that, and then I'm like, shoot, I was going to do the one someone sent me, but I promise you, I do see them.
My mom sends about 3 a day lately, but yeah, feel free to reach out to us on our socials and stuff. It's all in the show notes there. So yeah, good talk, buddy.
All right,
Until next time, everyone.
everybody have a good week. This has been our mental health headline hot takes.
We're so glad you came.
Remember, when you heal yourself,
you heal the world.
Be sure to like this video, leave comments, and suggest articles for future episodes.
Hit subscribe to Eyes Wide Open
and Bunny Hugs and Mental Health.